Welcome to the Loyal Sons podcast. I am your host, the Hoff, along with my co-host, Jared, who graciously has decided to join me today. Thank you for joining, Jared. Really looking forward to getting your insights. Folks, we are the Loyal Sons of the great state of Iowa, the great Midwest, most of all, our beloved Iowa State Cyclones, and of course, the greatest conference in all of college sports, the mighty Big 12 Conference. Welcome, Jared. How you feeling today?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing great, man. Got a great slate of college football ahead of us this weekend. Had a hell of a week last week. Really looking to today, we're going to do a rundown, folks, of last week's games and looking at this week's slate coming up. Obviously, kicking off tomorrow night with some Big 12 games, but most of all, some big news in the Iowa State camp, along with also some big news in the Big 12 Conference overall. Jared, earlier today, I saw out there on X, or the Twitter sphere, if you will, whatever we call it these days. There's a little bit of a rumor mill going on in regards to the injury report for the upcoming game for Iowa State and Arizona this week. What have you been hearing?
I heard that our safety turned corner, Jeremiah Cooper, has a knee injury, pretty significant. From what I've been hearing is that he might miss the rest of the season. That would be big news. Big devastation to our defensive backs. He has the most seniority out of that group. We do have a couple other capable corners, but it'll be interesting to see what we miss out of his athleticism and his leadership out on the field.
Right. I'm not even sure. I'm going to be honest. I call myself a great fan. I'm not even sure who we have as a backup. We obviously, John Tez Williams is a lockdown, but I mean, he can't be everywhere.
Trey Bell is the transfer we brought in from Lindenwood.
Yep.
A junior college, 6'3", great height for a corner, but they felt good enough about the young safeties we have, Jamison Pattison, and I want to say Cotton Moya, but it's not that guy anymore.
Yeah, and Benny Nagoya, don't we have him to fill in back there a bit?
He is. He did transfer from wide receiver to cornerback this offseason, but that is a big switch to make from offense to defense. It definitely worked for Darian Porter, but also Darian Porter had his breakthrough season in year 5 when he was a fifth-year senior. It took him that long to make the transfer from wide receiver to defense. It worked out pretty well. He had 4 tackles this week for the Raiders.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, it is possible to make that transition, but it does take time. And, I've heard, listening to a few other podcasts, just more analysts that cover college football, the Big 12, or just Iowa State in general. One of the big discussions was around him this year in the preseason and the transition time frame it takes to move from offense to defense, especially. The thing is the great teams, you fill in, right? And I guess that's really going to be what separates Iowa State from some of the teams this year, from some of the teams of the past, is it's next man up. Right. We did see it last year. I mean, this is the same team that was in the Big 12 championship last year. And we were down to what? Linebacker number 7,
17?
8, and 9. Yeah.
We were well beyond single digits in linebacker.
And I am also wondering too, with that, what in the hell's going on at practice defensively? It just seems like, some of these non-game related injuries. I'm nobody to criticize John Aycock, but at the same time, how do we sustain so many practice-related injuries defensively?
I do believe, this is Iowa natural turf guy, we practice on turf, artificial turf, but we play our real games on, obviously, the best field in the nation. Mm-hmm. Some teams complain that the grass is too long, but that natural surface, much more forgiving than that concrete that you're playing on with 3 inches of rubber on top of it to protect you. That
is true. Yeah, that shredded rubber works wonders, man, especially.
I've never been on a field with it. I would love to go down sometime and see what it looks like.
It does work wonders. I had a chance to play on it when I was playing, post college, but obviously it's one of those where, I was the old fogey back then. I was bitching about the fact that, there's shredded rubber getting in my eye every time I hit the ground, but the padding is glorious.
Oh, is it?
I will say this, and we'll talk about him later, but a friend of mine that was a former KU running back did say his favorite stadium to play in when he was playing in the Big 12 and with KU was back in 2007 was Jack Trice Stadium because of the natural turf. Anyways, we don't need to waste a bunch of time on our grass versus turf, but great points to bring up. Cooper, I hope that, this has not been made official yet. The new injury report comes out at 9:00 tonight. Folks, this is Thursday night, the 25th. So we'll see here shortly if it's official. And if it is, like I said, next man up. The great teams, they fill in. Um, Other Big 12 news, or I should say, big news in the Big 12. There's a coach, a legendary coach, that's out there looking for a job right now. Well, might be looking for a job. We don't know. But Mike Gundy got his walking papers this week, which was, I'm gonna be honest, Jared, that was something for me. I was shocked to see it be let go mid-season. That kind of says to me that he was. I hate to put it this way. He was dead man walking probably coming into the season.
I think that's very likely. You go from a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer now, but they played for a Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
They played. They
I
lost.
was at the game.
And the next season, they go 0-9 in conference. What is that? What led to that? I've heard it was a reluctance to, delve into the transfer portal and do the NIL deals. But, the guy's been there 20 years. I believe him and Whittingham at Utah are tied for second longest tenure behind Ferentz at Iowa.
Yep.
He took them from nothing. They hadn't been good since he was their quarterback, and all he really did was hand off to Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas, which makes everybody look great.
Just like
he took them.
Like having David Montgomery and Breece Hall in the back.
Yeah, we got a little bit lucky there. But, the team you play with can make the player. But back to Gundy, yeah, reports are they have their eyes set on a NFL coordinator, a former quarterback for them. That's the OC at, I believe, Atlanta Falcons right now. So he can't leave that job mid-season.
No,
nobody quits a coordinator job in the NFL. No. That would bar you from the NFL for the rest of your life.
Burn any bridge if you do that.
So the fact that they can't, if that's who they have their heart set on, they can't even get him till well after the recruiting deadline. So letting a coach go, and it's been a bad season. It's been over a year since they beat an FBS team. 20 years. You got to let the guy finish.
Mind blowing.
You got to let a guy finish a season.
FBS team.
I'm glad that we don't give him the opportunity. Fingers crossed we have that dream season like they had. And I think I mentioned this preseason that, I could see a scenario that, his last game, he pays us back for what we did.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And there was numerous people. Everybody knows about Cyclone Larry, obviously, out there on X, or again, Twitter, that obviously one of the best Cyclone burners that's out there. And that was something that him and a few others posted, was like, could this be a year for 2011 payback? Going back to Gundy, though, you want to talk about a loyal son, a guy that, not only played quarterback for Oklahoma State, comes back as a wide receiver coach, in 1990, then moves to a quarterback coach, quarterback OC, back to quarterback coach, then goes and coaches at Baylor, Maryland, for a few years, and comes back to Oklahoma State as the assistant head coach / overall head coach in 2001 and 2004. And then from 05 to 25, as the head coach. Overall, his coaching record is just unbelievable. 170-90, and there's very few coaches that can have such a stellar record as that. Bowles, he was 12-6, one Big 12 title back in 2011, which obviously was the year of our Lord, as Iowa State Cyclones refer to it. Thank you, Jeff Woody, for all the work you did in that game, and also to officials for not seeing if the field goal was good going over the uprights or not. But and also there was one Big 12 back when we had the Big 12 North and South. They had 2010 were the Big 12 South Division title holders. Yeah, much like you said, back not too long ago in our past, they were in the Big 12 championship game. I was there for the game against Texas in Arlington, where it did not go well for them and all that. We don't need to re-review that, but the game that stands out in my memory, I was there. Literally, I bought tickets to the Big 12 championship because Iowa State was supposed to be in it. However, I had some friends that were Oklahoma State alumni, and it happened to be Oklahoma State and Baylor. I was there for the game that literally Oklahoma State lost the Big 12 championship by about 3 inches on the last play of the game. And my goodness, I have not seen happier Baylor fans in any games I've been to. But thank you, Mike Gundy, for everything you did for coaching. That's the thing, is I think everybody should thank this man. Whoever, if it's Oklahoma State alumni or Oklahoma State fans, Big 12 fans, he truly was a coach that other coaches should aspire to be. A player's coach, developed great relationships with his players, cared about them, and truly cared about them, didn't just say it. I will say this, kudos to Gundy. He didn't pull the Dabo. Here's my resume. Look at all the great things I've done. if you want me to go somewhere else, I'll go coach somewhere else. Now, granted, Gundy hasn't won multiple national titles and 8 out of 10 conference titles. So that's
Oklahoma's not South Carolina.
That is true. That is for true. Well, best wishes to Mike Gundy. I hope that you find that, if there's, I'm sure, a ton of teams out there that are already calling you up right now and asking you if you want to consider coaching there next season. And if you choose not to coach and you just want to take your buyout and head out to pasture and go wrangle rattlesnakes and all the other crazy things you do,
I can see him on a jet ski,
I could easily see him doing
Kenny
that.
Powers, just
that mullet just flowing as he's just cruising across the lake, just standing there out on his boat dock, just shirtless, basking in the sun as people roll by. Well, there's that Gundy guy. But whatever. And I could see him definitely just moving on in life. And he deserves it. He really does.
He's 58 years old. He has all the money he'll ever need.
So moving into this last week's games, Jared. So there was obviously one standout game where a team kind of separated themselves from the rest of the conference. There was some interesting games to go throughout the week. Let's start out with some probably lesser looked at games. Colorado takes care of business at Wyoming. Caden Salters is not only the leading passer, but the leading rusher on the team. Colorado is a team that right now might be in a bit of identity crisis. Obviously, they lose one to a tough game to Georgia Tech. They're sitting 2-2 right now, I believe.
Yes, 2-2.
2-2. And was this a game that I think for Dion, you don't say we got to blow them out, we just got to win, and they did somewhat handily, 37-20 score. But I don't know if you had a chance to even watch that game or not. I did not watch the game, but just looking at the review. No, so kudos to Colorado. Glad they took care of business. Moving on, BYU and East Carolina. BYU, with Bear Bachmeier, the great number 47 at quarterback. But they had a slow start. I did watch a little bit of that game. They had a slow start, and BYU just kind of took over and pulled away.
So I watched the first half of it, most of it, almost every snap. BYU has lost at ECU on 2 separate occasions, and it was looking like it might go that route like it had in the past. That interception before halftime, a 3-yard interception for a touchdown, that sealed the deal. Like, you could feel it through the TV that the crowd was
took the wind out of them.
Yeah. Because, prior to that, I think it was 6-3, and that crowd was loving it. I hear that ECU is a great place to watch a game. My friend who I was watching it with used to live in Carolina, and he said he had tickets there he was a season ticket holder for 8 years. So that's why we watched the game instead of, I wanted to watch the Baylor-Arizona State game. But there were tons of great games on that whole weekend. So I didn't watch a single game from start to finish, which I never do. But there were so many great games on. I was just flipping channels back and forth. So
I had the multi-view up, I think, all day long. That's great. I'm glad you said something about why this was such a heated or such an important game for BYU. I happened to see on social media, there was all sorts of people giving BYU a hard time of like, well, yeah, but you can't beat ECU. And I'm sitting here going like, what? You're talking Utah all the way to Carolina. Like, why is there even trash talk going on between these two teams? So, thank you for clarifying. I agree. And very enlightening too. Like you mentioned ECU is a great place to tailgate. It seems like all the Carolina schools, I'm not going to include UNC in there, but Coastal's got some crazy fans as well, man. Like, that's an environment I actually would love to go see a game.
I don't know how Coastal fell off. 2 years ago, they were talking about might they make the playoff, and now this year they're back to being a Sun Belt team, nondescript, nothing.
Yep,
nothing going on.
COVID, that kind of helped them a bit to come into that spotlight. Maybe a little bit with recruiting. I'm not going to sit here and blame COVID on their ability, but I mean, it helped a few teams like them and Liberty stand out, But moving on to, so we can look into Arizona, though, the late night game, Arizona State and Baylor. Just an absolute freaking rock 'em, sock 'em, just blow for blow game. Granted, it's 27-24. It's not like they were scoring touchdowns every single drive, but I was really impressed with Arizona. I think Arizona State was catching some flack after Mississippi State. Cam Scadaboo's no longer there. He's out there, literally lowering his head and knocking 3 guys over per play in the NFL. And he, a lot of people didn't understand that he was a huge chunk of I guess they didn't understand how big of a chunk he was to their offense. And I think they were still struggling to figure out, what are we? Sam Levitt stepped up, man. He held his poise, and going up against Sawyer Robertson. And Baylor's defense is no slouch.
I disagree with you there.
You disagree? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on them?
They cannot stop the run. Look at what Auburn did to them. Just they could not stop it.
I don't like giving credit to the SEC on anything.
Neither do I.
But you have a good point.
Auburn's better than we thought. They played Oklahoma pretty tough last weekend.
They did.
But yeah, Baylor, best offense in the Big 12, hands down, in my opinion. I think Arizona State, you were down on the road to an SEC team, big, and you came back and you tied it. And then
hard to play in those cowbells, man.
Like Brandon Walker said, our grandparents fought in wars and these pussies are complaining about the noise at a football game. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but
gosh, I love Brandon Walker. He's such a good personality overall. Yeah, Sawyer Robertson went 25 of 39 with 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. The crazy thing is, and I shouldn't say crazy thing, it's not unheard of for Baylor to have, an amazing running back, or a good running back, I should say, but Bryson Washington for Baylor from 17 carries, 111 yards, which that's enough. If you combine those stats, passing and rushing just there, that's enough to make a team quit. Arizona State did, Sam Leavitt didn't blow people out of the water with his stats. I will say what he was efficient. And he was accurate. 22 of 32 for 221, 1 touchdown, but 0 interceptions. And that's big against Baylor. We know from experience, we've seen turnovers be absolute nightmares. We watched Brock Purdy turn over the ball how many times against Baylor before they had to make an amazing comeback and win in Ames years ago, right? And, they did have, Raleek Brown is starting to step up a bit as far as a running back in Arizona State that looks promising. But, Sam Leavitt kind of this was the game where he started to go back to Jordan Tyson, which, last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, was Jordan Tyson not the same receiver that last year was injured going into the Big 12 championship?
Yes, he missed their 2 biggest games last year. He did not play in the Big 12 championship and did not play against Texas.
And if I recall, he had like 700 more yards than the second leading receiver on the team.
The backup, not backup, but their number 2 receiver, who I think had 300 yards on the season, I think put up 300 yards against Iowa State in that Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, that's what happens when your entire defense is focused on a running back that they also can't stop.
No.
Yeah, I've tried to forget about that game in my memory and just kind of erase it that it happened. Unfortunately, I was there in person.
But the good thing about it is I was not in person, and it was a ass kicking from the very beginning. So I never got vested in the game. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Didn't buy into it.
Yeah, exactly. Because nothing's more heartbreaking than to, lose the last second of a Big 12 championship game that we've never won. So, 5 minutes into it, I'm like, what other games are on?
I will say it was more heartbreaking to be at the Oklahoma-Iowa State one where the interception at the end of the game. But, oh, good Lord.
You mean Purdy's 3rd interception of the game?
Let's not bring up dark memories tonight. But no, overall, great job by Arizona State sticking it out. Again, this was just one of those games where they had to gut it out. But they kind of reminded everybody, we're the defending Big 12 champs. We're not just going to go away.
I think that was actually the game of the weekend in the Big 12. Because people are quick to write both those teams off and anoint Texas Tech and Utah. And
I'm guilty of it.
Texas Tech went on the road in the toughest place to play in the Big 12. You know who has not won a home game in the Big 12? Utah.
That is true. They have not.
So don't tell me it's the most hardest place, most daunting place to play in the Big 12. They have not defended that house yet.
Guilty as charged.
If Under Armour was their sponsor, they would pull that because they did not defend that house or protect that house.
They did not protect that house. Rice Eccles, and it's funny, it's every game day show that goes to Utah raves about their fans, which I'm not going to sit here and take away from the Utah fan base. They're very rampant fans. They're loud, but, it doesn't necessarily mean they can't be beat out there.
Exactly. Well, just, they rave about BYU the same way. I hear their fans are incredibly loud, animated, extremely nice, as you'd expect from Mormons.
I've heard.
But, they're that loud and passionate while sober.
The Stormin' Mormons.
But look at what Iowa State went out there 2 years ago and just put a whooping on them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that was like an Abu Sama party, that game.
So, yeah, I think the hype for Utah, as it is every year, is a little overrated. They might be the Texas of the Big 12, the new Texas.
Okay.
And I'm still not sold on Texas Tech. Everybody wants to proclaim them as this, that, the other. They bought their team. They spent X amount of money. And that's great. That's true. And I've never hated Texas Tech. I'm an old Mike Leach fan. They've played nobody in their non-con, and neither did Utah. Utah beat
Mhm.
Stanford.
Yeah.
Who did we play 2 weeks ago? Arkansas State?
Yes.
They're putting up
Down in
40 on Stanford, you know,
tough Jonesboro.
but I've yet to see either of those two teams play a quality opponent.
That's actually a really good point.
Something I had thought was, when you have that many transfers and you're just throwing the football to some player you don't even know his name because he just stepped on campus 2 weeks ago. I was really impressed by that backup when he came in. Bill Hammond, whatever his name is.
Will Hammond.
Big Bill.
Big Bill. Yeah, we'll call him.
After that game, he's Big Bill Hammond.
Bill Hammond. Yep.
But so he looked really good. That game overall was not very entertaining. I was looking forward to a bye week, no Cyclones. I can lay on the couch and watch football, flip channels. I fell asleep twice before the fourth quarter of that game. And then in the fourth quarter, I actually kind of turned to a different game to watch that. And then it became a blowout.
A little sloppy.
Well, but they're like, they just blew Utah out of the water. I'm like, for 3 quarters, they did absolutely nothing. Well, I mean, what they did in the 3 quarters is they took the crowd out of it. And once the crowd was, not involved, new quarterback that you don't have any tape on, true freshman, then he came in and blew him out of the water. But they talk about, they just dominated. I'm like, yeah, for 1 quarter. It was 10-3 before that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that was one thing. And let me pull up the stats here really quick. The amount of interceptions by each team. So Baron Morton, let's hope that Baron Morton is healthy. I hate to see any college athlete, get, but he was just, I'm not surprised he got injured because
he was not protecting his body at all.
No, he was just taking hits, man. I mean, kudos to him for being a baller, but
he had already gotten banged up and still wasn't sliding.
Right.
Like, dude, you're asking for it.
Yep. 2 picks for him. And then,
those picks were not on him. Those were well-placed balls that were insane 100%. Interceptions. Let's give Utah a little credit there.
If you pull up the stats for both quarterbacks, it's almost like you look at it and you're like, why was one guy starting? Because you look at Baron Morton, who was 12 of 19 for 142 and 2 interceptions with a 29.6 QPR. And then you see Will Hammond, 13 of 16, 3 incompletions for 169, 10.6 average, 2 tutties, and a 96.3 BR. And you're like, why was he not starting?
I don't know if that's sticking with the senior leadership or he's the only person that's, not new to the program.
Could be.
And again, no tape on the kid, even though he already had like 400 yards of passing this season in mop-up time. But when you're studying film, you're not watching the fourth quarter when the backups come in.
No.
Because you don't expect those to be the dagger that kills you.
And, Devin Dampier, who, here's the other thing. Devin Dampier for Utah, there's rumors that Utah may have misappropriately handled their injury list.
Yes, they only listed people as out. They didn't have any probables, doubtfuls, or questionables because they said that he was never in question, that he was going to play, so they didn't need to list him.
But he didn't even practice, Wednesday and Thursday before the game, they said?
That may be.
It might be. I mean, I don't know that for fact, but you could definitely see in his throwing motion, he wasn't, and after he got rocked a few times, obviously he was not the most comfortable. He was grimacing a bit here and there. And I think it kind of got exposed a bit. So we'll see.
I'm not a fan of, I'm not going to say I'm not a fan, but I think his hype has been overrated. Yeah, he was really good at New Mexico and he came in with his offensive coordinator, people are raving about Utah's line, but this is the line they had last year when they didn't make a bowl game, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. If they did, they just barely scraped into one. So much hype has been given. Maybe I'm getting old and senile, but this year, everybody that they hyped up, Texas Tech, Utah, like, oh, they have this guy coming in. They have this transfer class. Look at what they talk about with K-State, how they brought in all these people. And I'm not going to throw shade at K-State. They're having a down year. I'm not going to kick them. But transfers don't equate to wins. A team needs to be a team. You need to know the guy, especially offensive line. You can slide one offensive line into an established thing. But, this is for reasons why for years, freshmen didn't play football. They redshirted because they needed to learn the system. They needed to become accustomed.
Going all the way back to We Are Marshall, aren't we?
No, I've never seen that, but which is odd because I'm also a McConaughey fan, but we're putting too much emphasis on entire teams that are transfers. And yeah, you can, plug and play here and there, put a guy in a new team and he's one guy that has to become accustomed to everybody, but they only have to become accustomed to one guy. When you're lining up 11 new people, it takes them a while to form some, continuity with them.
Yeah. What a tangled web we weave, or what a full circle we've come, I guess, because you bring up the fact that, and I've said this numerous times, you can have the most expensive athletes out there, just like Texas Tech. They might have been the most expensive team in the transfer portal. But if they don't gel as a team, you just have a bunch of individual athletes.
You see that big old head?
Yeah.
His head's bigger than your dog.
He even had a little bit of a spot in the mic, too. Welcome. What's his name again?
Andre.
Andre, welcome to the podcast, Andre. Happy to have you aboard. My dog is also, Mr. Logan is sitting over here pouting as we record and trying to bark. I think we're just going to keep them in here. They can just be part of the show. All right. Well, enough about Texas Tech and Utah. I mean, if anything, I will say Texas Tech can take away is there was some questions about them coming into this game, some questions about Utah, and I think some of those got answered, not all of them. Obviously, there's some differing views. One other game really quick that I did want to touch on was SMU TCU, which is obviously that was a big game down here in Fort Worth. Really interested in your thoughts on this. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it.
I did not get a chance to watch any of it really live in real time. I've seen some highlights. TCU is another team, great quarterback. They bring back some good players. They bring in a good mix of transfers to returning players. It turns out North Carolina is terrible. SMU is not the team that made the playoffs last year.
You mean Bill Belichick just isn't up to snuff yet, huh?
Well,
with 77 transfers or whatever it is they had.
Again, look at Dion 2 years ago when the entire team was transfers and they were terrible. And last year they got a little bit more continuity after a second year together.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, but TCU, I mean, I will say this for them. This is a rivalry game. This is the last one, I guess, for quite a while.
So, yeah,
I mean,
I hate.
I hate that as well. It's happening to a lot of schools. I mean, we're going to experience it.
Well, it did go away for 25 years when SMU didn't have a football team.
Yeah, that is true. That did have something to do with it.
Hopefully they don't go another 25 years.
But TCU needed to, to put it in not such an appropriate way, they needed to whip it out and put it on the table because they knew that this game was probably not going to be held for, the extended future. I'm hearing that it might be coming back in like 6-7 years potentially. But I would say outside of, the quarterback play, which was Josh Hoover is starting to stand out as maybe one of the Big 12, statistically, one of the Big 12 stronger quarterbacks. But Eric McAllister, I mean, the guy has 8 receptions. These are NCAA football for Xbox or PS2 or PS, whatever they are out there.
What did he have, 254 or something?
Yeah, 8 receptions for 250. He averaged 32 yards a catch. I mean, this is literally like playing on freshman mode on, EA Sports, NCAA, and 3 touchdowns.
So last year on the 26 NCAA, Benny Nagoy was doing much better.
Yeah, he was. I actually had him as well. Yeah, he was outstanding.
3 touchdowns a game, that's nothing. Let me play on freshman mode.
So TCU takes care of business. Now, granted, that was a tight game until the fourth quarter. McAllister kind of just took over. Something I thought about is like, maybe I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if double teaming works a receiver, but I would say it might have been a good idea to double cover him. It could have been a possibility, but, they felt that maybe they had a lockdown corner safety that was going to be able to take care of it. Honestly, I don't even know if they were playing man the whole time. But anyways, TCU takes care of business down here in my town, Fort Diggity. The other 2 games don't need to go into a bunch. They were, other 3 games, I should say. Poor old Oklahoma State. We all know what happened to them against Tulsa. Kansas kind of, I'm going to be honest, was a little bit of a shocker. I thought West Virginia was going to hold their own a little bit. I didn't know that Daniels was going to just dismantle West Virginia's defense, but statistically he did not. But he did get in the head of their defensive coordinator.
So was that game, that was at Kansas, right?
That was in Lawrence, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've, again, only seen highlights. I don't think West Virginia's up to snuff. I think they won that rivalry game against Pitt, and good for them. But Rich Rod's back. It's his first year. He brought in an entire new team, same as Belichick, same as everybody else. But he didn't do it with the pocketbook that Texas Tech had. And Kansas, not a bad team. If people remember back to last year, there was a good span towards the end of the season where they beat, 4 ranked teams in a row.
They were the best Big 12 team in the second half of the season.
Yeah. And they were, 30 seconds away from beating K-State, their biggest rival.
You and I sat in Arrowhead and watched Daniels run around like he was just out in a playground just picking our defensive art.
You watched the game. It just kept running back and forth to buy more beer because I didn't want to watch that, or at least remember that game.
Fair point. Fair point. You're right. I don't know if there was enough beer in that stadium to make me numb enough to not feel the pain from that game. I was so mad leaving Arrowhead. Actually, I mean, we were all upset. And kudos to you, KU fans. Like, I mean, it was granted, it was. I don't even want to revisit the game, but I mean, they took care of business. 41-10 shellacking they lay on West Virginia. 1 point to bring up. LaShawn Williams, running back for Kansas State, has had a decent season so far. 19 carries for 129 yards that game. So you add the ability to run by Jalen Daniels, and then you add LaShawn Williams as well. And like, that's a tough thing to stop, especially if you're West Virginia. Do we really need to talk about the UCF North Carolina game? I feel like we've spent enough time on the important games. You know, they are 3-0, as they should be.
I don't think we need to delve into anything in the past with them, where if we want to talk UCF, it'll be what goes on this weekend against K-State. Will K-State finally rebound after their bye week? I really hope so, because Kleiman's a good coach. Avery Johnson's better than the way he's been playing. They've had a week to regroup. As Iowa State fans know, that Ireland trip, it looked like a lot of fun and it worked out well for Iowa State, but has not worked out well for K-State. So I hope they can regroup. I know it exhausted our players, their players, and they had some additional drama in the parking lot after the game. So nothing to discuss about UCF except for what we think of them this week.
I am a Kleiman fan as well. Obviously a native of Iowa. Just a great coach overall. I really want to see them do well as well. And yes, I hate for Avery Johnson that he is dealing with what he's dealing with. Granted, has he portrayed himself with the best performances? Not necessarily, but no kid has to deal with what he's dealt with publicly from the things that happened this weekend.
It's a lot of stress. A lot of people are saying that he looks like he's playing like a guy that's going to transfer out. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot of people jumping to conclusions really early in the season, and he's still 100%. Just a kid.
Yep, 100%. All right. Well, that's a rundown of last week's games. We can get into this week's games and maybe go through and do a little bit of a pick'em here. Jared, you sent some power rankings out and wanted to go into these a bit. You have those in front of you?
Yes, I do. Give me 1 second.
Was really interested to hear your thoughts on how teams stack up overall. So walk us through your power rankings. Just give us a quick rundown on top to bottom, or bottom to top, however you want to say it, or just the top half.
Let's go top to bottom.
Okay.
Despite everything I've just been saying about Tech not proving themselves, I do go ahead and put them at number 1. They're 4 games into it now. Despite it being 3 quarters before they really opened up that offense, they did put a whooping on Utah on the road. So I'll give them the top spot. Iowa State, again, these are power rankings, not who I think's best. Iowa State did have a bye week, so they could drop down to 2. Then I do have TCU, who again, I don't think has really had the best opponents, but they've already played 2 Power 4 teams in UNC and SMU. Arizona State, I give them big credit for that Baylor game. I do think Baylor's better than their 2-2 record. That's why I have Baylor above KU at number 5, where I have KU at 6. Utah, I'm still buying into the hype, even though I hate myself for it. Then I have Houston and Arizona and UCF, all teams that are undefeated, who I still have below a 2-2 Baylor team, which I shouldn't. Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. I misread that. I have BYU at 5. I have Baylor at 11. So that's how and that makes more sense that BYU is that high. Baylor, I have at 11 just because of their 2-2 record. Cincinnati, 2-1. I have at 12. Colorado, 2-2. I have at 13. West Virginia just got, shellacked by Kansas. K-State should be 0-4 in all actuality, which again, I hate for them. I'm not a K-State sympathizer in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
but they're
win over North Dakota, I believe it was,
and a comeback last minute win at that.
Yes.
And then Oklahoma State. I feel bad for them.
Nothing to be said. I do. I feel terrible for them. I said earlier this week to somebody that if I could give every one of those players a hug, I would. To be honest.
Back when we had North and South, like that was my team in the South.
Yeah. One of my very first games, actually, I shouldn't say my very first game. One of the very first times I ever saw Oklahoma State play in person was when I was a kid, and I was at the game that Jack Trice Stadium was named Jack Trice Stadium.
In 97?
When they were playing Oklahoma State. And old Darren Davis was the running back. Darren unveiled the previous year had been wearing the number 2, and he came out with number 28, in honor of his brother.
Who's his brother?
Oh, yeah, he's some dude named Troy. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not. But overall, looking at your power rankings, I think I don't have much to disagree with here. It's interesting. I will say a couple of different things that I see as interesting. And again, like you said, this is not where we see them ending up at the end of the season. But seeing UCF over Baylor is definitely something. In Houston also being up at 8. And I'm not saying they're wrong or anything. Obviously, who am I to know? But it's impressive to see that Houston's up at number 8.
I can't think of their quarterback's name or what game I watched them play on a Friday night, but they looked, did they already play Colorado?
Houston, let's see here. No. Yes, they did play Colorado.
Yeah, when they
beat them 36-20.
Yeah, their quarterback looked more than competent.
You're talking about Connor Wigman.
Yeah, Connor Wigman.
Yep.
We always know Willie Fritz's defense, is his signature. But yeah, Connor Wigman looked good. I didn't know he had wheels on him. His arm was solid.
He wasn't a terrible quarterback at A&M.
But so I completely forgot about him at A&M because I remember the hype of him coming in, and then he didn't live up to expectations, so he transferred out. I mean, A&M, they spend money, so
yeah, a ton of it.
Yeah. But no, I was impressed by Houston. I would love to see them, deeper in the season, see if they have any depth or if they can play well against big teams, or because we still don't know where Colorado's at.
True. I'm going to be honest, though. Houston is just one of those teams I'm glad we don't play.
I'm happy we don't play Utah, Texas Tech, or Houston.
Why am I drawing a blank here? We don't play. Do we play Baylor?
We do not play Baylor.
We do not play Baylor. That's another team I don't want to play this year either.
So I'll admit, going in, I thought Baylor might be the team to beat. I wasn't buying into the Texas Tech or Utah hype. I'm like, Baylor has a chance to do it. And if Baylor makes it to that championship game in Arlington, they have the toughest schedule. So if they get there, they've earned it. And I don't want to be the team that plays them.
Yep. 100%. I agree. Well, I mean, it's a great rundown on your power rankings. I think fantastic job. Like I said, there's not many that I would switch around. I think you pretty much hit it on the head. I'm sure obviously there's people out there that everybody has their view on power rankings, but comparatively to 247 Sports, very much in agreement on your top 3. I mean, nailed it with Texas Tech, Iowa State, and TCU, and Arizona State. I'm sorry, top 4. 247 has Utah coming in at 5, BYU at 6, Kansas right there at 7, and then Baylor. So they're giving Baylor a little bit more credit than you are at this point. But again, power rankings very much, everybody's got their own formula, right?
In a power ranking, I find it hard to put a 2-2 team over a 3-0 team.
100%.
Because it's power ranking. I'm not ranking these as far as who I think should be ranked. This is a power ranking. So
100%, man. All right. Well, let's hop into this week's slate. We'll do a quick rundown of these and then get to the game of the hour, or the game of the weekend in our world, I should say. Not for all the fans out there. I'm sure everybody has their own game of the weekend. But kicking it off tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on Fox, TCU and Arizona State. And this is a game that a lot of people are really looking forward to. I know, especially down here in Fort Worth, I work with and have some friends that are TCU fans. They have a feeling that they're going to walk in. I mean, this is the number 24 team in the nation, not beating Arizona State, but they're actually kind of the mindset they're going to be able to walk into the desert and take care of business. And we'll see. Now, I do think TCU have something to prove, coming into this game. But what are the big matchups, or I should say defensively and offensively? What do you think that we need to look out for as far as, Arizona State's offense versus TCU's defense, or vice versa?
I just want to see something from TCU against, again, so early in the season. I'm not an ACC guy. I don't follow SMU that well. SMU had already lost to Baylor pretty handily, I believe. I could be wrong on that. It'll just be interesting to see. I think Arizona State.
They lost in overtime to them, but a loss is a loss.
Yeah. Oh, was it overtime? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Baylor beat SMU in overtime.
Yeah. For me, we're going to see if TCU's defense is legit. Sam Levitt, see how he does against them.
So just a heads up too, defensively, just looking at statistics here right now, 353 yards per game they're giving up. TCU's defense is 69th overall in FBS. Considering their strength of schedule, that's not a great sign. And this is where it gets interesting, because Arizona State offensively is 65th in FBS. They're 101st in passing. They are 24th in rushing, but they're 73rd in scoring. So we're looking at an offense and defense that might be a bit of a stalemate. Well, then you look at TCU's offense. 14th overall at 516 yards per game, passing 6th overall, rushing 64th overall, scoring wise 23rd overall. Then you look at Arizona State's defense. Again, maybe a little bit of a stalemate, but TCU seems to have a little bit of an edge here. Statistically, if you will.
Yeah. So I think Baylor's offense, if Arizona State was able to keep pace with them and slow that offense down just enough, I think they should be able to slow down TCU just as much as they slowed down Baylor. And not that they slowed them down, but they were able to keep pace and stop them from just, running wild. Because I'm a big fan of that Baylor pass offense that they've shown so far. So
always been it's somehow they always have a guy that can just throw the ball around.
Dave Aranda's supposed to be a defensive mind, I thought.
I thought so too. Maybe that's why he's on such a hot seat.
I mean, he won a national championship at LSU as their defensive coordinator.
That is true. And he has won a Big 12 title. I was there to see it. All right. So pick for the game.
I'm going to go with Arizona State as the home team.
Okay.
Let's take a look at, see what the spread is on that.
Spread on this one
is Arizona State 3.5.
Yep, 3.5. I'm going to take, let me go ahead and give your score prediction.
Ooh.
Or you just want to give team to cover?
34, somewhere in that range.
37 to 34. All right. I'm going to go the opposite with you on this one. I think TCU is a team to be reckoned with. I think they're a team that could be in Arlington. Not going to go extremely opposite. I still think
it's going to be. Is it just because it's only a 20-minute drive to Arlington?
It's all just home bias, I can't. The only time I've gone to one TCU game that Iowa State was not playing there. But anyways, with them being 3.5-point dogs, I'm going to say they covered the spread. I'm going to say this is another version. Arizona State is going to have another game where somebody's going to kick a field goal at the end. And I think TCU is going to pull it out.
That would be very interesting. I can't wait for tomorrow. That's kind of a late kick. 8 p.m. on a Friday?
8 p.m. Well, I mean, the next game on Friday night.
Is it 9:30?
Yeah, I mean, going on at Corvallis. Houston's traveling out to Oregon State, which let's call it what it is. You got Oregon State and you got Washington State, two teams that were just completely decimated when the Big 12 Pac-12 decided to disband. Their athletic departments have been absolutely shredded, and you can see it in their football programs. Oregon State, I tried watching 2 or 3 quarters of one of their football games not too long ago, and they just...
I believe that was the Texas Tech game that Jeff Woody was calling, I assume?
Yes, that might have been it. There was also they're just hard to watch.
Well, they're 0-4. They got blown out by Cal of the ACC. They got blown. Well, I guess they only lost by 9 to Fresno State.
Right. Which,
31 to Texas Tech and 34 to Oregon. So I don't think this is going to be much of a game. That 13.5 spread. That's a big spread for a Houston team that I think scored 13 points all of last season. I still think Houston's going to blow them out. I don't know if they'll cover, but I don't even have.
I could see this being a 20-3 game.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. All right, moving in. So that's a 9:30 kickoff on ESPN tomorrow night. Moving into Saturday, we'll just start in the morning and work our way through here. So we've got 2 11 a.m. games, one on TNT. So we're moving to that Big 12 TNT partnership here. Kansas and Cincinnati. And as much as I would love that, I'm friends with somebody who are family friends with Brendan Sorsby of Cincinnati. So I would love to say, you know what? I've got some intel on Brendan Sorsby in Cincinnati where they're going to come out here and take care of business. I don't know, man. What I saw when they played against Nebraska, and Dylan Raiola was able, and and Nebraska running backs were able to just walk through that defense like it was butter. I don't see it going any better for them against Kansas.
So what was shocking to me about that game is that D tackle at Cincinnati, Corleone, the Godfather.
Yes.
That he stayed there. Because that's a guy, every time I watch Cincinnati game, he owns the line of scrimmage, or at least the 2 or 3 guys they send to block him. The fact he stayed at Cincinnati, I know he had to be offered millions of dollars to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, he's a big hoss, man.
He's one of those guys. I don't often watch him. Man, it would have been nice to see him in Cardinal and gold, but could you imagine a D line with Big Citrus and Corleone as the 2 D tackles?
Mm-hmm. Add a guy like Reggie Hayward, the back and the linebacker core. Holy Lord. So that's going on down in Lawrence. A 2-1 Cincinnati versus 3-1 Kansas. I still say the KU Missouri game was something where Kansas got completely caught off guard. Missouri somehow figured out the one defensive strategy to contain Jalen Daniels and took advantage of it. Now it's KU has a 4.5 point favorite going into this game, which, to be honest, I think this is a game that's like, if you're a bettor,
I would bet Kansas hard.
Yeah, like I'm kind of blown away. How is it only 4.5? What does Vegas know that we don't?
So Cincinnati, their D coordinator, Tyson Veit, longtime Iowa State coach, he's basically running the Iowa State defense out there in Cincinnati with, I'm not trying to talk bad about their team, but far less talent than we have on our defense. And we know that our weakness is not just Jalen Daniels, but all running quarterbacks, but especially Jalen Daniels. So I don't understand how they expect this game to be so close in Lawrence. But again, Vegas knows more about football than we could ever dream of.
They somehow do. And then the other 11 a.m. game, UCF and Kansas State. We kind of talked about this already. This is a team of show me who you are. That's really what this game comes down to. You got a 1-3 Kansas State team who, much like you said, this could be a team that, if they got their head out of their butts, they could be a bowl team. And you got a UCF team that there's a chance they could be riding high on a 3-0 and have that come crashing down starting this week.
Well,
but we don't know.
Central Florida, they have to travel.
Careful now. Careful.
Central Florida, the University of Central Florida, has to travel all the way to Manhattan. But again, the spread is 6.5 on the Wildcats. I don't know how you give that to them, a 1-3 team versus a 3-0 team that just beat an ACC Power 4 team, coached by Belichick, but still, you couldn't pay me enough. I wouldn't bet this game with your money either way.
What's crazy is that if you looked at this game, if you were somebody that knew nothing about either team and you just looked at where both these teams rank statistically, you would be so deceived. Passing wise, UCF, their defense is ranked 5th in FBS right now because of who they've played. Right now, UCF fans, anybody that does listen to this, I've met some UCF fans that are awesome people. This is nothing. I'm not dogging on your team here, but they're 17th overall defensively in FBS, just total defense, only averaging 8.7 points per game, which is 6th overall. And then Kansas State's defense, you look and they're 68th nationally.
I'm shocked they're that well.
86th in scoring. Yeah, I mean, I am too.
Again, when you need a last-minute come-from-behind win against North Dakota, the Fighting Hawks, not North Dakota State, the bad North Dakota team.
The bad, they're the North Dakota State's little brother.
They paid Army $1.4 million, I believe, to come to Manhattan and beat them. And then that Arizona game, they made Arizona look like a real contender in the Big 12.
And I think what's helped them ranking-wise defensively is that, thankfully,
they played that monsoon in Arizona.
Arizona was the most powerful offense that they've came up against. I mean, granted, our offense is no slouch, but at the same time, like you said, they were playing in a monsoon. Neither team was really putting up much offensively that game. So, all right, what's your pick, man? That is let me see here. What is the spread on that? It is
6.5.
6.5 for Casey.
Again, I'm not even going to make a prediction because this could be a blowout either way. I
am going to say that Kansas State pulls this out. They do not cover, but I'm going to say Kansas State 23, UCF 20. That's the hill I'm going to die on for this game. All right. Moving into 2:30, Baylor versus the poor, lowly Oklahoma State Cow. I shouldn't say poor and lowly. You don't know. Baylor could be down after losing such a tight game and exhausted after losing that game last week. And Oklahoma State could come out fired up. You've seen teams do it before. But if you look at their injury report or their availability list, however you want to say it, Derek Duke said it best, a guy who covers the Big 12. He said they might have to hit up Stillwater High to see if they can have some guys fill in, because I don't know who all they have available to play this game. I don't know if there's much to go into here. Baylor, I think, could probably just walk in there and walk out with a 42-3 victory.
That's very, very possible. It'll be interesting to see how the players respond. I don't even know who's the interim coach.
It's their former OC. Their current OC, I should say.
So yeah. Are they going to respond? I haven't even looked to see if anybody's already opted out for the year, to save their eligibility. I don't think it's going to be a good game. I think this will be a blowout.
Comparing the stats, you almost want to cover your eyes. You got Robertson with 1320 yards, and 13 TDs and 3 interceptions, and then you've got Zane Flores, 45-79 for 2 interceptions. And rushing wise, you got Washington with 415 yards, and you got Fields as 143.
I know Oklahoma State lost their starting quarterback for the season.
Yes,
I think in their first game or beginning of their second game, Hoss Haney.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to get ugly.
Zane Flores is up from your area, Gretna, Nebraska native.
Really?
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Well, you're on the Iowa side of the river. All right. Well, we can move on back. Probably likely going to be, it's a 20.5 spread, which I can't remember the last time I saw Oklahoma State at home as a 20.5 dog. But moving on, looking at Utah and West Virginia, I was hearing some rumblings that, Utah could be so worn down after last week that West Virginia could maybe give them a game. And when we saw West Virginia play Pitt tough, there's a team inside there that has the ability.
So I have no faith in West Virginia's quarterback, Nico Markiel.
Mm-hmm.
But just like we talked about earlier, BYU traveling to ECU, Utah catching that flight to Pittsburgh, and then the 2-hour bus ride?
Yeah.
Again, once you're moving time zones like that, I know it's a 2:30 game our time. Morgantown. So it'd be 3:30 there and 1:30 Utah time. Who knows? West Virginia is a crazy place to play.
Yeah, it is. I love their fans. Their fans are absolutely amazing.
I think Utah will win. I would definitely take West Virginia to cover that 12.5.
It's interesting game. West Virginia offensively really hasn't shown much this year, and defensively they've been kind of just average. But again, Utah, and I hate to say this, Utah fans, if any of them listen to this, granted, they are not afraid to call you out if you hate on their team. And I'm not hating on their team, but we got to kind of see if they're a paper tiger, at this point.
So I've never met a Utah fan in real life.
No?
No. They look great on TV. I hear that they're super nice in person, but we know that they're kind of online pretty notorious. They're a lot like Hawkeye fans. Great in person.
Social media.
Online, they're just trolls.
The Iowa of the Big 12.
Yeah, which is weird that, with our Iowa nice, the Hawkeye fans turn into the, keyboard warriors and they're so tough, that way.
Yeah,
but
there's keyboard cowboys in every conference. Utah seems to be the ones that are in ours, but I'm not going to hold that against their football team.
No,
but their fans have been talking for 2 years now that they're going to run through this conference. We have yet to see it. And that's in not only football, basketball as well.
They were too good to be in this conference and still haven't won at home yet.
Yeah.
It might favor them that they're actually on the road.
Them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was at Utah, I would take West Virginia. But since it's in Morgantown, I think Utah wins. West Virginia covers.
Okay. All right. And how big are we talking of a spread? 12.5.
12.5.
West Virginia. 12.5. Utah spread. All right. I'm going to say similar. I'm going to say this is like a 25-10 game, maybe, or 25-15. It's going to be one of those Utah handles business, but West Virginia shows a little bit of life. Maybe puts them on the ropes till late.
I'll go 28-21.
Okay. I like it. There is one more game that is a later kickoff. It's a 9:15 game on ESPN where BYU has to go to Boulder. And I was listening to another show this week with Williams and Hassel and up in Iowa everywhere. And their thoughts on this were, BYU should take care of business. But Colorado's shown some signs of life, in a way. It's strange in the way that they're kind of similar in a way, like how their offensive strategy. I should say they rely on the mobility of their quarterbacks. I'm not saying that those two said that. That's something I came up with myself. But you got Bear Bachmeier, number 47. Like I said, the new coming or second coming of Doug Flutie, and then you got Caden Salter out there, which his legs and his arm have been Colorado's offense in some of these games. This could be a shocker. This could also be a blowout.
I'm leaning more towards blowout. Nothing against Colorado and Dion, but I think Dion's went through so much this last year. His kid's graduating. They're not there anymore. He had his cancer treatments. Yeah. Which is 2 years after, they cut off half of his foot due to complications of, I don't know if it was diabetes or some other condition he had, but he's been through so much.
It's a circulation issue due to injuries he sustained back when he was a player.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know if they have it. I also wonder their quarterback, Salter, how is he their third string guy going into the season?
That's been an interesting question. I don't know the whole story on that. I remember watching their first game, and was their starter starting in the first game, and he had to come in.
I don't believe it was the first game, but don't quote me on that. I haven't been watching them religiously.
I have not either. This should be an interesting game. It's a 6.5 point spread in favor of BYU. I'm going to say that BYU probably handles this. Might be a 31-10 game.
It very easily could be.
Boulder's a tough place to play though, and their fans are up, man. I mean, they're regardless. Dion has brought that effect.
I do worry, and I'm not again talking shit about Colorado. I truly wonder when Dion leaves if that crowd base goes back to the way it was 10 years ago,
Just
where they're
completely
like, oh, we're going to go hang out in the beautiful mountains. What's football?
Yeah. Goes back to the old Pac-12 times when they were
Do you remember
and God knows what
25 years ago when they were winning the Big 12 North and beating Nebraska by 60, and Nebraska still got into the national championship game?
When I was playing Arena League, our running back was actually one of the guys on that team that beat them 66 to God knows whatever to go to the Big 12 championship over Nebraska.
Who was that running back they had? Their starter, Chris Brown or whatever?
Chris Brown, yeah.
Not the Rihanna Chris Brown, but a different one.
No, not the Rihanna Chris Brown. No, this was a Chris Brown that wasn't beating on females.
Well, he did his beating on the football field.
Yes, girlfriends. He did. Laid it to him. One of my most favorite games to watch of all time. All right, the game of the weekend for us, the Whiteout in Ames. Sold out game, too, as of today. You know, the Arizona shame on me. Arizona Wildcats come to Ames undefeated after, a knock them down, drag out bloodbath against K-State. And now they're coming into Ames. Iowa State coming off a very, very much needed bye week. This team was exhausted. Coming out of that Arkansas State game where a lot of people were losing their minds. I can't believe they only beat Arkansas State by 8 points, whatever it is. Down one of our best pass catchers in Burkle. The team looked worn out. I think they needed some rest. It was one of those where I think they just needed to survive. So I'm not overthinking that game too much.
Neither am I.
We don't need to revisit it. The boys are healthy outside of Coop. We got Flores back. We got Burkle back. There's a few other names that we're missing. However, not only are we down Coop, Kyle Conradi missing is going to be a problem.
That is going to be a problem. What a lot of people might not know is our backup kicker got hurt for the year in that K-State game. So we are going to be trotting out a true freshman walk-on who was primarily a quarterback in high school. Not great numbers. I'm not terrible numbers. High school
wasn't bad. I mean, he was 6'9" in high school. I think he had a long of 46 or 47,
which is good. But you played Iowa football, high school football.
Yeah,
I played Iowa high school football. You don't kick field goals.
That is true.
There's no faith in a kicker.
Yeah,
unless you are from Harlan.
That's
and you're putting players into the NFL, and they're setting the record of Cowboys. 8. Yeah, what do you kick? 8 field goals in a game.
Something like that.
And I was like, oh, I know him. I used to date his sister.
Yeah, no, and Logan, we just kicked extra points, and we were maybe lucky if we were 50% on those.
Oh, yeah. We went for 2 a whole lot.
You guys did. I do remember Riverside always going for 2. Didn't you guys also punt on 3rd down every once in a while?
The quick kick was our coach's favorite play. They'll never see us punting on 3rd and 1. You're like, yeah, because we can get the first down.
So going back to the game, the kicking could be a problem. However, I see this as an opportunity. This, Matt Campbell, God love him, best coach in Iowa State history. One of his criticisms is, there's a couple of them. A couple of the main ones are sitting on a lead, a 2-score lead, which might be 10, might be 14. Going into the second half playing it, or getting in the red zone and settling for 3. And this might force them. For the first time in the Matt Campbell era, we might have no choice but to make every time we're within the 35 or the 40, it's 4-down territory all the way.
You are in 4-down territory until you're in the red zone. If you don't cross that 20-yard line, I don't trust anything above a 37-yarder.
And I would be honest, as far as depending on where the ball's on the field, anything inside the 10 is 4-down territory.
I agree.
Like the red zone for us to consider kicking should be anywhere between the 20 and the 10. You get inside the 10, no, there's no kicking happening.
Exactly. I do not have a lot of faith in Arizona's defense. We have Burkle back. Hopefully, we worked a lot on catching the ball. We've had an insane amount of drops. Not just
that needs to get better.
We got some young guys with Overby and Eskelson.
Yep.
pronounce it.
Frisco native from down here. Yep.
But, Bramer had that. It wasn't even a drop. It was let me catch it in the basket of my hands, then throw it behind me to the tight end. Which,
dude
hey,
was Superman that game.
he was trying, you don't hate a player for trying everything he can. I kind of thought there was early contact there. He's being tackled, but whatever. That's the only interception we've given up all year.
Yep.
Which I couldn't be happier about. You play 4 games and you have 1 interception. If we can keep that up and he only still throws 3 all season, that's a good thing.
Yeah. No.
We still don't have Burr, I believe, or whatever his name is. Barr. He's still, I don't believe, on our availability list yet. But again, I'm not, and I could, be eating crow come Saturday evening. I think we will be able to establish a ground game. Rocco is Rocco. He's better in the pressure moments, but I think we win this pretty easily.
Think so?
It'll be a very odd score because we might be going for 2.
It is true. It is true. There's a lot of the fan base that strongly disagrees with you, and they think this is going to be very similar to either the Baylor or the UCF game from last year.
So here's the interesting thing. This spread started off as 7.5. Now it's down to 2.5, which means all the money's on Arizona State to cover.
Arizona?
Yeah, same thing.
We both did it. Yeah. It's actually right now back up to 5.5.
Yeah, but down from 7.5.
But you're talking it went down 2.5. All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
And this is kind of less about the game and more about the theatrics and the timing of it. We're playing a night game on ESPN doing a whiteout.
Yeah.
While on ABC, Penn State, most famous team that does a whiteout, is doing a whiteout against Oregon. And I believe on CBS, Bama is playing Georgia. Yep. So not to mention, we're not even on primetime Fox because Fox is like, we're not even going to put a football game on because it's just going to get crushed by those two. So yes, no matter how great we look in this game, nobody's watching it.
Noah Fafita scares the hell out of me, man. And it's because he's a scrambling quarterback. Did you realize how short he is?
I realized it while watching that K-State game.
Dude, Jeff Woody did an analysis on him that was really interesting.
It's like Prince running the football.
Yeah. I heard Williams talking about it. He also compared him to like Doug Flutie. He said the guy has to almost, if he's inside the tackles, has to almost jump to throw the ball. But that works against us.
Yeah, if we can't see him and then he can dart out. I'm shocked he can generate that sort of he's got insane arm strength out of that little tiny guy. I mean, you look at,
and the dude's, he's accurate.
I mean, you look at major league pitchers, they're all 6'5", big guys. But he's not a big guy. And not to mention, Polynesian, not to fall into stereotypes and whatnot, but, when you hear about the Arizona and Utah.
Their history as far as athletics is proven.
Yeah, as defensive tackles and O-linemen, they're not known for putting out 5'8" quarterbacks.
That is true.
Like Tua,
he was like the runt of the litter.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, granted, there's a strength of schedule to play in here, but 297 yards a game overall offensively, 176 yards per game passing.
You say 297 a game?
Actually, I'm sorry. That's our. I'm sorry. I was looking at our defensive stats. They're 430. I don't know why I had the wrong one up on my screen. 37 yards per game.
Okay.
Overall offensively, 248 yards per game passing, 189. That's another thing. Ishmael Mahdi, dude, that guy's a hoss, man. They're running back. You're watching him play against Kansas State. Good Lord. So I don't know. Our defense they're going to have to step up, dude. Our linebackers are going to have to be ready for everything.
We get Willick back. Willich.
Campbell can't even pronounce it the same every time he gets out.
So I'm, outside of Cooper, I have a lot of faith in our defense this year. I'm not too worried about that. I worry about
until the last game, their open field tackling was absolutely impressive.
But we also Jontez played less than 60% of the snaps, not because he was injured, but I think the team was mentally and physically exhausted.
Yes.
We all know that. You've already beaten your 2 biggest rivals in your first 3 games. You've traveled 7,000 miles already. You fly into Memphis and you take an hour and a half bus ride to a 115-degree stadium in Jonesboro, Arkansas. That doesn't concern me in the slightest.
Right. No, I would agree.
I think our defense will come. We'll play. We're at home. It's our first Big 12 home game.
I think the differentiator, man, everybody's talking about Rocco back, talking about the drops. I don't think that's going to be the X factor of this game is going to be Carson and Abu.
Yep, I agree.
Getting moving. That will be what breaks it down. So, all right. So what's your prediction?
I think we go The over-under is 40.5 points. It's hard to give a prediction, a score total, when you know one team won't be kicking at all. So, I always see these people like, oh, they're going to score 25 points. I'm like, well, how did you come up with that total? It's 7-7 safety field goal, but in this game, that's legitimate. Who knows? 33-17.
33-7. All right. I have 2 predictions. First prediction is that with it being a 6 p.m. kickoff, I predict that by 3:30 in the afternoon, at least 66% of the fans attending that game are at least buzzed before that game starts. We all know Ames. We all know a night game, especially in beautiful weather, 80 degrees. And then my other prediction, I'm going to go around with some of the others. I'm going to say this is a 38-35. Gosh, it's tough. I'm struggling with picking the Cyclones in this game, but I'm going to say this is a 38-35. I don't know how they're going to muster. We're going to have to maybe be right in perfect setting to kick a field goal at the end of the game. But I think it's a squeak it out 3-point win.
I really disagree with that assessment.
That's why we're doing this.
Like I said, I like Fafita. Like, the guy's impressive. Their Mahdi has more rushing yards in 3 games than our leading rusher. But we also run a 2. We don't have a number 1
even distribution between 2 backs.
Exactly. Their leading wide receiver, 237 yards to our 162. Our 162 would be a lot higher if he didn't drop several passes. We are not a big sacking team. Haven't been since Will McDonald went to the NFL. Shout out to him for that blocked field goal.
Field goal block, yeah.
And all the memes I've seen of the coach running down the sideline this week.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's too bad they lost the game.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. We've seen Baker Mayfield do that to us a time or two.
Numerous times.
Yeah, but no, I'm pretty pumped about our defense and the size we have in our defensive backfield. Cooper, from what we're hearing, rumors, nothing substantiated.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'4" as a corner. We have a bunch of other tall guys, which can really, some of these wide receivers, they've been feasting on these FCS schools that are trotting out 5'8" D-backs, athletic as hell, but they can just, outmaneuver them with their size. It'll be tough to see them going against D-backs, that are just as big as them, just as athletic. Willick, Bacon, I'm excited to see if we can contain a mobile quarterback, especially one that we can't see behind his offensive line. So when he darts out, it'll be, where's he coming from? I have no idea.
Yeah. Poof, there he is.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that's a great rundown of this week's games and, great assessment overall. Thank you, Jared, for everything you brought as well. Great rundown of last week's games and again, this week's. We're going to call it good for the night, folks. Have a great weekend. Enjoy some great games out there, fans. Stay safe. Not too safe, but stay safe. Arizona fans, enjoy Ames. The crowd is going to be, I'm sure, very welcoming. It is a whiteout, so your school colors do include white. You're welcome to join the crowd. Overall, I'm the Hoff. It's Jared joining me. Have a great weekend. Have a cold bush light on us. We're the Loyal Sons. Thank you again, and have a great weekend.